My name is Gloria Patterson, and I'm 62 years old. I never thought I would be standing in my own hallway at midnight, hiding like a stranger in my own home, listening to my son and his wife plan to destroy me. But that's exactly where I was on March 15th, and that's exactly what changed everything. Let me take you back to that moment. The moment that split my life into before and after. It was 12:17 in the morning. I know because I checked my phone when I heard voices downstairs. I had gotten up to use the bathroom and heard my son Marcus and his wife Shanice talking in the kitchen. At first, I thought maybe they couldn't sleep. Maybe they were having a late-night snack. Marcus had always been a night owl, even as a boy, but something in the tone of their voices made me stop at the top of the stairs. Something secretive, something wrong. I crept down the stairs in my bare feet, my heart pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. The kitchen light was on, spilling golden light into the hallway. I pressed myself against the wall, just outside the kitchen door, and I listened. "She trusts you completely," Shanice was saying. Her voice had this cold edge to it that I'd never heard before. "She'll sign whatever you put in front of her." "I know," Marcus replied. "My son, my only child. I've been working on the documents all week. Once she signs them tomorrow, the house transfers to us. Everything transfers to us." My legs almost gave out. I put my hand against the wall to steady myself. "And then what?" Shanice asked. "Then we wait a month, make it look natural. Then we tell her we need the space for the new baby. We tell her it's too much house for one person anyway. We help her find a nice little apartment somewhere." "A cheap apartment," Shanice corrected. "We're not wasting money on her. When she signs, we kick her out. The old woman gets nothing." I waited for Marcus to say something, to defend me, to tell his wife she was wrong, to remember that I was his mother, the woman who raised him alone after his father died, the woman who worked 2 jobs to put him through college, the woman who gave them this house to live in when they said they were struggling. But Marcus said nothing. Instead, he laughed, a quiet, cold laugh that I'd never heard from my son before. "Mom's always been easy to manipulate," he said. "She's too kind, too trusting. She actually believes we moved in to help her. She has no idea we've been planning this since Dad's life insurance money ran out." The words hit me like physical blows. Each one hurt worse than the last. "What about that neighbor?" Shanice asked. "That nosy woman next door, Candace, right? She's always watching everything." "Don't worry about her," Marcus said. "Mom doesn't really talk to the neighbors anyway. She keeps to herself. By the time anyone figures out what happened, it'll be too late. The house will be ours, legally. Mom will be out, and we'll finally have what we deserve." "What we deserve," Shanice repeated, and they both laughed. I stood there in that dark hallway, my whole body shaking, tears streaming down my face. This was my son, the baby I held in my arms 35 years ago. The little boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard and call them flowers. The teenager who cried on my shoulder when his father died. The young man I was so proud of when he graduated college. When did he become this? My phone was in my robe pocket. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold it. But I managed to open the voice recorder app. I hit record and held it toward the kitchen. "So tomorrow morning, you'll tell her it's just routine estate planning?" Shanice was saying. "Exactly," Marcus replied. "I'll tell her it's to protect her, to make sure everything's in order. She'll think she's signing papers that keep her safe. She has no idea she's signing everything over to us." "And the bank accounts? Those transfer too. All of it. Dad's life insurance money that's left, her savings, her retirement account, everything. She'll have nothing, Shanice, nothing but whatever Social Security she gets. And that's not much." "Perfect," Shanice said. "I'm tired of living in this old lady's house, following her rules. Did you see how she looked at me when I wanted to paint the living room? Like I was committing a crime. This is about to be our house, our rules, and she'll be gone." "To a nice, cheap apartment on the other side of town," Marcus added. "Far enough that she can't just drop by, far enough that we don't have to deal with her." I had heard enough. I had more than enough. My finger was still on the record button, but I couldn't stand there anymore. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I turned and ran back up the stairs as quietly as I could. Back to my bedroom. I closed the door and locked it. Then I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, my phone still recording, and I let myself cry. But only for a minute, only for 1 minute. Because as I sat there in the dark, something inside me changed. The hurt was still there, the betrayal was crushing. But underneath all that pain, something else was rising. Something fierce. Something that said no, not to me, not to Gloria Patterson, not after everything I've survived. I stopped the recording, 43 minutes long. I had 43 minutes of my son and his wife, plotting to steal everything from me. I looked around my bedroom, this house. This beautiful house that my husband Jerome and I bought 30 years ago. We painted every wall together. We planted the garden together. We raised Marcus here. Jerome died here, in this very room, with me holding his hand. And Marcus wanted to take it from me, wanted to throw me out like garbage. Not going to happen. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Marcus and Shanice finally go to their bedroom around 2 in the morning. I heard their door close. I heard the house settle into silence. And I planned. By the time the sun came up, I knew exactly what I was going to do. At 7:30, there was a knock on my bedroom door. "Mom," Marcus's voice, bright and cheerful, like he was the perfect son, like he hadn't spent last night planning to rob me blind. "You awake? I made coffee. Want to come down for breakfast?" I took a deep breath. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were puffy from crying, but I splashed cold water on my face. I could do this. I had to do this. "Be right down, baby," I called out, keeping my voice normal, sweet, the voice of the trusting mother they thought I was. I got dressed, a nice dress, the blue one Marcus always said made me look pretty. I did my hair, put on a little makeup to cover the evidence of my tears. When I looked in the mirror, I looked like myself again, like Gloria, like the woman who survived losing her husband, like the woman who raised a son alone and put him through college, like the woman who wasn't about to let anyone destroy her. I went downstairs. Marcus and Shanice were in the kitchen. Marcus was at the stove making eggs. Shanice was at the table, scrolling through her phone. They both looked up and smiled when I walked in, big fake smiles. "Morning, Mama," Marcus said. and he actually came over and kissed my cheek. I made your favorite, scrambled eggs with cheese, and those turkey sausages you like. That's so sweet of you, baby, I said, and I sat down at the table. My table, in my kitchen, in my house. Shanice barely looked up from her phone. She never did. That girl had lived in my house for 8 months, and she'd never once helped with cooking or cleaning. Never once said thank you for letting them stay here rent-free. I'd excused it. Young people and their phones, I'd thought. She'll warm up eventually. Now I knew better. Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something, Marcus said as he set a plate in front of me. Something important. Oh, I picked up my fork. The eggs looked good. Marcus had always been a decent cook. I taught him that. What is it, sweetheart? Well, you know how Dad's been gone for 5 years now? 5 years and 4 months, I said quietly. Not that I'm counting. Right. Well, Shanice and I have been talking, and we think it's time you got your affairs in order. You know, estate planning, making sure everything's protected, making sure you're taken care of. I took a bite of eggs. They tasted like ash in my mouth, but I chewed and swallowed. That's very thoughtful of you, I said. I've been doing some research, Marcus continued, sitting down across from me with his own plate. And I found out that a lot of older people, they don't have their paperwork in order. And then when something happens, everything gets complicated. The state gets involved. It's a mess. I said, taking another bite. So I took the liberty of having some documents drawn up, just basic stuff. A will, a trust, power of attorney. It'll make sure that if anything ever happens to you, God forbid, everything is handled smoothly. No stress, no courts, no complications. That does sound like a good idea, I said slowly. Marcus's face lit up. Really? I was worried you might think I was being morbid or something. No, baby, you're just being smart. Taking care of your mama. I appreciate that. Great! The documents are in my office. We can sign them right after breakfast. I'll walk you through everything. It's really simple. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I have a better idea. Marcus's smile faltered just a little. What's that? Why don't we take the documents to a lawyer? Have them review everything. Make sure it's all correct. You know, I had a friend at church, Sister Patricia, and she told me her son had her sign some papers, and she didn't really understand them. Turned out they weren't quite right. Just want to make sure everything's done properly. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. Marcus's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Surprise, confusion, worry, and then, finally, that fake smile again. Mom, you don't trust me? And there it was, the manipulation. Make it about trust. Make me feel guilty. Make me feel like the bad guy for being careful. But I'd heard what he really thought of me last night. I knew the truth. Of course I trust you, baby, I said sweetly. But this is important. Legal stuff. I just want to make sure we do it right. You understand, don't you? I mean, I guess, Marcus said slowly, but I already had a lawyer prepare these. They're good to go. We don't need... Which lawyer? I interrupted. What? Which lawyer prepared them? What's the name of the law firm? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't remember off the top of my head, he finally said. That's okay, I said brightly. It should be on the documents, right? Let's go look. I stood up from the table. Marcus didn't move. Shanice finally looked up from her phone. Her eyes were hard, calculating. Marcus told you. she said flatly. He told you what we were planning. The mask was off, just like that. Shanice, Marcus hissed. Oh, please, she snapped. Look at her face. She knows. You really think she's that stupid? I stood there, looking at my daughter-in-law. This woman I'd welcomed into my home. This woman I'd tried so hard to love, to connect with, to treat like the daughter I never had. No, I said quietly. I'm not that stupid. Not anymore. Marcus stood up fast, his chair scraping against the floor. Mom, whatever you think you heard, I didn't think I heard anything, I said, my voice steady now, strong. I know what I heard, all of it, every word, and I have proof. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and held it up. 43 minutes, I said. 43 minutes of you planning to steal my house, my money, my life. 43 minutes of you calling me an old woman. 43 minutes of you laughing about how easy I am to manipulate. Marcus's face went white. You were recording us? Shanice shrieked. That's illegal. You can't. Actually, I said calmly, in this state, I only need one party's consent to record a conversation. And since I was one of the parties in the vicinity, it's perfectly legal. I checked, called a lawyer this morning at 6 a.m. Nice woman named Keisha at the legal aid office. She's expecting my call back. That was a lie. I hadn't called anyone yet, but they didn't need to know that. Mom, please, Marcus said, and his voice cracked. Please, let's just talk about this. Let's sit down and get out, I said. What? Get out of my house, both of you, now. You can't kick us out, Shanice yelled. We live here. We have rights. You're guests in my home, I said, and I'm telling you to leave, now, or I'm calling the police. Mom, be reasonable, Marcus tried. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I didn't recognize the person I saw. You were going to leave me with nothing, I said, and my voice broke just a little. You were going to take everything your father and I worked for, everything we built. You were going to throw me out and leave me with nothing, and you laughed about it. It's not like that, Marcus said weakly. Then what's it like? I demanded. Tell me, explain to me how I misunderstood you planning to steal my house. He couldn't. He just stood there. I want you out by tonight, I said. Take your things and go. And if you're not gone by 6 p.m., I'm calling the police and playing them this recording. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, walked up the stairs, walked into my bedroom, closed the door, and then I collapsed against it, shaking, crying, my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. But I'd done it. I'd stood up for myself. I'd said no. Now I just had to figure out what came next. I stayed in my room for an hour, listening to Marcus and Shanice moving around downstairs. I heard them arguing in harsh whispers. I heard drawers slamming. I heard Shanice on the phone, her voice sharp and angry, though I couldn't make out the words. And then, around 10 in the morning, I heard Marcus coming up the stairs. He knocked on my door, soft, gentle, like he used to knock when he was a little boy and wanted to apologize for something. Mom, can we please talk? I didn't answer. Mom, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please, just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain. I walked to the door but didn't open it. Explain what, Marcus? Explain how you were going to rob me? Explain how you were going to leave me with nothing? I heard everything. There's nothing to explain. It wasn't like that, he said through the door. I mean, yes. We were talking about the house, but you misunderstood. We weren't going to kick you out. We just wanted to make sure things were organized, legal, proper. At midnight? I asked. You were organizing legal documents at midnight and laughing about how easy I am to manipulate? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. You have until 6 p.m. Start packing. Mom, please. I'm your son, your only child. You're really going to choose some misunderstanding over your own family? That word, family, he was using it like a weapon. You chose, I said quietly. You chose money over your mother. You chose greed over love. Don't you dare put this on me. We have nowhere to go, Marcus said, and now his voice had an edge to it. Anger creeping through the fake sweetness. You're really going to put us on the street? You're both grown adults with jobs, I replied. You'll figure it out, just like I had to figure out how to raise you alone after your father died. Just like I had to figure out how to pay for your college. Just like I figured out everything else in my life when things got hard. You'll survive. This is crazy, Marcus snapped, the mask finally slipping completely. You're being completely unreasonable. And over what? A conversation you eavesdropped on? You know what, Mom? Maybe Shanice was right. Maybe you are just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see us happy. Those words hit hard, but not as hard as he wanted them to. 6 p.m., I repeated. Be gone. I heard him storm back downstairs. I sat on my bed and tried to think. I needed help. I needed someone who could advise me. Someone who knew about legal things. The legal aid office didn't open until Monday, and this was Saturday. I couldn't just sit here for 2 days, waiting while Marcus and Shanice plotted their next move. Then I remembered something. My neighbor, Candace Morrison. The one Shanice had called nosy. Candace was a retired paralegal. She'd mentioned it once when we were both getting our mail, and we'd chatted for a few minutes about how she missed working but enjoyed retirement. I didn't know her well, but she seemed kind, solid, real. I grabbed my phone and my keys and headed downstairs. Marcus and Shanice were in the living room. Shanice was on her phone. Marcus was pacing. Where are you going? Marcus demanded when he saw me. Out, I said simply. We need to talk about this, he said, stepping in front of the door. Move. Marcus, not until you listen to reason. I looked at my son blocking my path. When had he gotten so big? When had he become someone who would intimidate his own mother? You have 3 seconds to get out of my way, I said, my voice cold, or I'm calling 911 right now and telling them you're physically preventing me from leaving my own house. We stared at each other, a standoff, mother and son, everything broken between us. Marcus moved aside. I walked out of my own house, down my front steps, and across the lawn to Candace's house next door. My hands were shaking as I rang her doorbell. Candace answered almost immediately. She was a tall woman in her late 60s, with beautiful silver locks pulled back in a colorful wrap. She was wearing gardening clothes and had dirt on her hands. Gloria, she said, surprised. Everything okay? No, I said, and my voice cracked. No, everything is not okay. Can I please talk to you? Her expression changed instantly. She stepped aside and gestured me in. Come in, honey. Come right in. Candace's house was warm and welcoming. Pictures everywhere of her children and grandchildren, plants on every surface. the smell of something baking in the kitchen. She led me to her kitchen table and poured me a glass of sweet tea, without asking if I wanted it. Then she sat down across from me and took my hands. "Tell me what's wrong," she said gently, and I did. I told her everything, the conversation I'd overheard, the recording I'd made, the confrontation this morning. All of it came pouring out. Candace listened without interrupting. Her face went through a range of emotions as I talked. Shock, anger, sadness. But she didn't speak until I was finished. "That sorry excuse for a son," she finally said, her voice hard. "I'm so sorry, Gloria. I'm so sorry." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "I told them to leave, but what if they won't? What if they fight me? What if they find a way to—" "Stop," Candace said firmly. "Take a breath. We're going to handle this. You're not alone." "But I don't even know where to start," I said. "I need a lawyer, but I don't have money for—" "My nephew," Candace interrupted. "Jamal Morrison. He's a lawyer. Property law, estate law, all that. He's good, Gloria. Really good, and he'll help you. I'll call him right now." She pulled out her phone and dialed while I sat there, hardly daring to hope. "Jamal, it's Auntie Candace. I need you to come over right now. I have a situation and a friend who needs help." "No, not later. Now. This is urgent." She paused, listening. "Thank you, baby. See you soon." She hung up and smiled at me. "He's on his way. Lives about 20 minutes from here. Now, while we wait, let me ask you something. Do you have somewhere you can stay tonight? Somewhere safe?" "What? Why would I leave my house?" "Because, honey, desperate people do desperate things. And your son sounds desperate. I don't want you in that house alone with them. Not until we get this sorted out legally." I hadn't thought about that. Hadn't thought about whether Marcus and Shanice might actually be dangerous. "I don't have anywhere," I said quietly. "My sister moved to Florida last year. My friends from church, I don't know them well enough to—" "You're staying here," Candace said firmly. "Tonight, tomorrow night, however long you need. I have a guest room that never gets used. You're staying right here where I can keep an eye on you." "I can't impose like that," I started to say. "It's not imposing if I'm offering," Candace said. "And I am. You're staying, no arguments." I felt tears starting again. "I don't understand why you're being so kind to me. We barely know each other." "We're neighbors," Candace said simply. "And more than that, we're two black women who've lived long enough to know what betrayal looks like. You think I don't know what it's like to be hurt by family? My own daughter tried to pull something similar with my house 10 years ago. Wanted me to sign it over to her. Said it was for tax purposes. Thank God I had Jamal to review everything first. Found out she was planning to sell it out from under me. What did you do?" "Cut her off," Candace said bluntly. "Broke my heart, but I did it. She came around eventually, apologized. We rebuilt our relationship. But I never signed over anything, and I never will. You have to protect yourself, Gloria, even from your own children, especially from your own children." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. Candace got up to answer it, and a moment later, a tall young man in his 30s came into the kitchen. He had kind eyes and was wearing jeans and a sweater, like he'd been relaxing at home when his aunt called. "Auntie C," he said, kissing Candace on the cheek. Then he turned to me and extended his hand. "You must be Gloria. I'm Jamal Morrison. My aunt says you need legal help." I shook his hand. "I can't afford—" Let's worry about that later, Jamal said, sitting down at the table and pulling out a notepad. First, tell me what's going on. Don't leave anything out. So I told the story again, showed him the recording on my phone, watched his expression grow darker as he listened. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Okay, he finally said. First things first. This recording is gold. It's clear, it's detailed, and it proves intent to commit fraud. In this state, what they were planning would constitute elder abuse, fraud, and theft. That's serious. Can I really kick them out of my house? I asked. Absolutely. They're not on the lease or the deed, right? You didn't sign anything giving them any ownership? Nothing. They've just been staying with me. Then yes, you can evict them. You've already given them verbal notice. I'd recommend we follow up with written notice too, just to be safe, but legally, they have to leave. What if they refuse? Then you call the police, show them the recording, file for a restraining order if necessary. But Gloria, I don't think it'll come to that. Once they realize you have legal representation and evidence of their fraud, they'll leave. People like this, they're cowards. They prey on people they think are weak. The moment they realize you're not weak, they'll back down. What about the documents Marcus mentioned, the ones he wanted me to sign? I'd like to see those if possible, but based on what you've told me, they would have been fraudulent. Any signatures obtained through manipulation or fraud are invalid. If they'd somehow gotten you to sign them, we could have fought it in court, but thankfully, you figured it out in time. I felt a weight lifting off my chest. So I am going to be okay? They can't take my house? Not a chance, Jamal said firmly. Your house is yours. Your money is yours. Your life is yours. And we're going to make sure it stays that way. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Jamal said with a small smile. We've got work to do. First, I'm going to draft a formal eviction notice. You'll need to have it served to them by 6 p.m. today, as you stated. I'll also draft a cease and desist letter warning them against any attempts to contact you or harass you. Then, on Monday, we're going to file some paperwork with the court to make sure all your assets are protected. I'll pay you, I said, whatever it costs. Family rate, Jamal said, glancing at his aunt. Which means whatever you can afford. We'll figure it out. Right now, let's just focus on getting you safe and keeping your assets secure. Over the next few hours, Jamal worked on the documents, while Candace made lunch for all of us. It felt surreal sitting in my neighbor's kitchen, eating homemade soup, while a lawyer I'd just met drafted papers to evict my own son. But it also felt right. For the first time since last night, I felt like I wasn't alone. At 4 p.m., Jamal finished the paperwork. He'd called a process server who agreed to come out on a Saturday for an emergency. At 5:30, we drove back to my house. The process server was already waiting. I stayed in Jamal's car while the process server went to my door. I watched Marcus answer, watched him read the papers, watched his face turn red. He looked around, saw Jamal's car, saw me in the passenger seat. And then he did something I didn't expect. He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was cold, calculated, mean. He walked down the driveway toward the car. Jamal immediately got out. That's close enough, Jamal said firmly. Marcus stopped. He was still smiling. Hi, Mom, he called out. Brought a lawyer, huh? That's smart. Really smart. You have your notice, Jamal said. You need to be out by 8 p.m. tonight, or the police will be called." "Oh, we'll be out," Marcus said. "Don't worry about that. But Mom, you should know something. You should know that we're not done, not even close." "Is that a threat?" Jamal asked sharply. "Not a threat," Marcus said, his eyes locked on mine through the car window. "Just a promise. See, Mom always taught me to be smart, to be prepared, to have backup plans. Well, guess what? I learned from the best." He turned and walked back to the house. I felt cold all over. "What does he mean?" I asked Jamal. "Just talk," Jamal said, but he looked worried. "Just trying to scare you. Don't let him get to you." But I was scared because I knew my son, and when Marcus had that look in his eyes, when he had that smile on his face, it meant he had something planned. At 7:45, Marcus and Shanice came out of the house. They had suitcases and bags. They loaded up their car. Shanice was crying dramatically. Marcus looked calm, too calm. Before they got in their car, Marcus walked over to where I was standing with Jamal and Candace on her front lawn. I'd refused to go back into my house until they were gone. "Goodbye, Mom," Marcus said. "I hope you're happy. I hope your house and your money keep you warm at night, because that's all you're going to have. You just lost your only family." "I didn't lose my family," I said, finding my voice. "You stopped being my family the moment you decided to betray me." "You're going to regret this," Shanice spat from the car. "You have no idea what you've done." They drove away. I watched their taillights disappear down the street. And then I went back into my house. My house. I walked through every room, checking to make sure they hadn't taken anything, hadn't destroyed anything. Everything looked fine, normal, untouched. But something felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't until I went to my bedroom that I realized what it was. My jewelry box was open, empty, my wedding ring, my grandmother's pearls. The diamond earrings Jerome gave me for our 20th anniversary. The gold bracelet my mother left me when she passed. All of it, gone. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I heard footsteps behind me. Candace and Jamal had followed me in. "They took my jewelry," I said, my voice shaking. "All of it, everything." Jamal's jaw tightened. "Call the police, now. That's theft. That's—" He stopped mid-sentence. He was looking at my dresser, at a piece of paper that hadn't been there before. He picked it up and read it. His face went pale. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" He handed me the paper. It was a note in Marcus's handwriting. "Thanks for the jewelry, Mom. Consider it back payment for all those years you guilted me about paying for my college. Oh, and by the way, you might want to check your bank account." Sometimes online security isn't as good as people think. You really should have been more careful with your passwords. See you in court. Love, Marcus. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, logged into my bank account. My savings account was empty, completely empty. $63,000 gone. My checking account had $12 left. My retirement account showed a pending transfer of the full balance to an account I didn't recognize. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I was seeing. "He took everything," I whispered. "He took everything." And then my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered without thinking. "Hello?" "Hi, Mom." Marcus's voice, cheerful, bright, like nothing was wrong. "Just wanted to let you know that you were right. I did learn from you. You taught me to always have a backup plan. Well, My backup plan was getting all your passwords months ago. It's amazing what you can find out when you check someone's computer history. So thanks for the life lesson. And thanks for the money. Shanice and I are going to put it to very good use. Marcus, I said, my voice breaking, please, please don't do this. That's all I have. That's my life savings. Should have thought about that before you kicked us out, Marcus said coldly. You made your choice. Now live with it. And don't bother trying to get the money back. By the time the banks sort it all out, it'll be long gone, transferred overseas, untraceable, gone, just like we are. Goodbye, Mom. He hung up. I stood there, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. Everything I had, everything Jerome and I worked for. 40 years of saving, 40 years of being careful. 40 years of planning for a secure retirement. Gone, all gone. And my son, my only child, had taken it all. Gloria, Candace said gently, putting her hand on my shoulder. Gloria, honey, look at me. But I couldn't. I couldn't look at anything. I couldn't feel anything except the emptiness where my heart used to be. Marcus had destroyed me after all. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that empty bank account. Those zeros where my life savings used to be. My retirement. My security. Everything Jerome and I worked 40 years for. Gone in a few clicks of a button. But Candace didn't leave my side. She stayed in the guest room with me at her house, checking on me every hour, making sure I was okay. And in the morning, when I still couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the wall, she called Jamal. He arrived at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning with a woman I'd never met before. Gloria, this is Destiny Chen Williams, Jamal said. She's a financial crimes investigator. She's also a friend, and she's going to help us get your money back. Destiny was a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, black and Asian, with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat down across from me at Candace's kitchen table and opened her laptop. Tell me everything, she said, every detail. When you first noticed the money was gone. What accounts, everything. I told her. My voice was flat, dead, but I told her. Destiny typed as I talked, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Okay, she said when I finished. First thing you need to know, your son is an idiot. I blinked. That was not what I expected. Excuse me? He's an idiot. Destiny repeated. He thinks he's smart, but he made several critical mistakes. First, he transferred money from your account to an account in his name. That creates a direct paper trail. Second, he did it electronically, which means there's a digital record of everything. Third, he called you and basically confessed. That phone call, we can subpoena those records. Fourth, and this is the big one, he said the money would be transferred overseas and untraceable, but overseas transfers take time, usually 3 to 5 business days. And since he did this on Saturday night, the transfer won't even start processing until Monday morning. Hope flickered in my chest for the first time since yesterday. So we can stop it. We can absolutely stop it, Destiny said firmly. We're going to file a fraud report with every single one of your banks this morning. We're going to get law enforcement involved. We're going to freeze those accounts before a single penny leaves the country. And then we're going to make sure your son faces every possible consequence for what he's done. But it's Sunday, I said. The banks are closed. Emergency fraud lines are open 24/7, Destiny said. Jamal, pull up her bank information. Let's start making calls. For the next 3 hours, we called banks, we filed reports, we spoke to fraud departments, to managers, to security teams. Destiny knew exactly what to say, exactly which buttons to push, exactly how to make them understand the urgency. By noon, all my accounts were frozen. The transfers were blocked. Nothing could move in or out until the investigations were complete. Now, Destiny said, we need to get the police involved. This isn't just civil fraud. This is criminal, elder abuse, identity theft, wire fraud. Your son is looking at serious federal charges. Federal? I whispered. He stole over $60,000 and attempted to transfer it overseas. Destiny explained. That's federal wire fraud. That's FBI territory. This isn't some small-time theft, Gloria. Marcus committed serious crimes, and he's going to pay for them. Monday morning came. Jamal, Destiny, Candace, and I went to the police station. I brought my phone with the recording. I brought my bank statements. I brought the note Marcus left. I brought everything. The detective who took my case was a tired-looking black man in his 50s named Isaiah Washington. He listened to everything, listened to the recording twice. When it finished playing the second time, he looked at me with something like pity in his eyes. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said quietly. "I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry it was your own son." "Can you help me?" I asked. "Can I help you?" He almost laughed. "Ma'am, your son handed us a gift-wrapped case. That recording alone is enough to press charges. Add in the bank fraud, the theft of jewelry, the elder abuse. He's done, finished. We'll have a warrant out for his arrest by tomorrow morning." "What about my money?" "The banks are already working on reversing the transfers. They'll return the money to your accounts within a week, maybe 2. As for the jewelry, we'll try to recover it, but I can't make promises there." "And Marcus? What will happen to him?" Detective Washington leaned back in his chair. "He's looking at multiple felony charges. If convicted on all counts, 10 to 15 years, maybe more. And his wife as an accessory, she'll face charges too." I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, but I just felt empty. That was my son, my baby boy, and he was going to prison. But then I remembered his voice on the phone. Cold, cruel, laughing about destroying me. And I remembered that the boy I loved had died a long time ago. I just hadn't realized it until now. "Do what you have to do," I told Detective Washington. "Press all the charges. I'll cooperate fully." "We'll need you to come back for a formal statement," he said. "And eventually, there'll be a trial. You'll have to testify." "I'll be there," I said. We left the police station and went straight to Jamal's office. He'd been working on something else, something he said would be important. "I've been digging into Marcus's background," Jamal said, spreading papers across his desk, "and I found something interesting. He was fired from his job 3 months ago, not laid off, fired for stealing." "What?" "He stole office equipment, laptops, tablets, sold them online. His company didn't press charges because they didn't want the publicity, but they fired him. That's why he and Shanice moved in with you, not to help you, because they had no money and nowhere else to go." The lies just kept coming, layer after layer after layer. "And that's not all," Jamal continued. Shanice has a criminal record, chamol, fraud, identity theft. She served 18 months in prison 5 years ago. Did you know about any of this? I shook my head. I didn't know anything. Marcus had lied about everything. There's no baby either, Jamal said quietly. I checked. Shanice isn't pregnant. Never has been as far as medical records show. That was just another lie to manipulate you. Every word was another knife to my heart. But I had to know the full truth. What kind of mother doesn't know her own son? I whispered. The kind who trusted him, Candace said, squeezing my hand. The kind who loved him. The kind who believed the best in him. That's not a failure, Gloria. That's what good mothers do. 2 days later, Marcus and Shanice were arrested. They'd been staying at a cheap motel on the other side of town, apparently waiting for the money to clear so they could run. They never got the chance. Detective Washington called me personally to let me know. We picked them up this morning, he said. Found some of your jewelry in their possession. Not all of it, unfortunately. Looks like they sold some pieces already. But we got your grandmother's pearls and your wedding ring, your husband's ring too. I started crying. I couldn't help it. Those rings, Jerome's ring that I'd kept all these years. I thought I'd lost them forever. Thank you, I sobbed. Thank you so much. Just doing my job, ma'am. They're both being held on a $250,000 bond each. Given the flight risk and the nature of the crimes, I doubt they'll make bail. They didn't. Marcus and Shanice sat in jail for 2 months, waiting for their trial. In those 2 months, my life slowly started to come back together. The banks returned my money, every penny, plus interest for the trouble. My accounts were secured with new passwords, new security questions, everything locked down tight. Destiny helped me set up a trust to protect my assets, made sure that no one could ever access my money again. Without multiple layers of approval, Jamal helped me get a restraining order against Marcus and Shanice. 300 yards. They couldn't come near me, couldn't call me, couldn't contact me in any way. And Candace? Candace became the sister I never knew I needed. We had coffee every morning, went to church together on Sundays. She introduced me to her book club, her garden club, her whole circle of friends, women like us, women who'd survived, women who'd rebuilt. I wasn't alone anymore. I had a family, a real family, not blood, but chosen. And that meant more than blood ever could. The trial was in June, 3 months after that terrible night when I heard my son plotting to destroy me. The courtroom was packed. I wore my best dress, the one Jerome always said made me look like royalty. I wore my grandmother's pearls and my wedding ring. I wore my armor. Marcus and Shanice were brought in wearing orange jumpsuits. Marcus looked thin, haggard. He tried to catch my eye. Come. But I looked away. I had nothing to say to him. The prosecution laid out the case. They played the recording, all 43 minutes of it. The whole courtroom heard Marcus and Shanice plotting, heard them laugh about manipulating me, heard them call me the old woman. I watched the jury's faces as they listened, watched them go from neutral to disgusted, watched them look at Marcus and Shanice with contempt. Then it was my turn to testify. The prosecutor was a sharp young black woman named Tamika Ross. She walked me through everything. The night I overheard them, the confrontation, the theft, the bank fraud, all of it. Mrs. Patterson, she said gently, Can you tell the court how this has affected you?" I looked at the jury, 12 faces looking back at me, 12 strangers who would decide my son's fate. "It broke my heart," I said simply. "Marcus is my only child. I raised him alone after his father died. I worked 2 jobs to give him everything he needed. I paid for his college. I loved him with everything I had. And he repaid me by trying to steal everything I owned, by trying to leave me with nothing. It didn't just break my heart, it shattered it." "Do you have anything you'd like to say to your son?" Tamika asked. I looked at Marcus then, really looked at him. He was staring at me, tears running down his face. Whether they were real or fake, I didn't know. I didn't care. "I forgive you," I said. "Not for you, for me, because I'm not going to let your betrayal poison the rest of my life. I forgive you, Marcus, but I'll never forget, and I'll never let you hurt me again." Marcus's lawyer tried to spin it, tried to say it was a misunderstanding, tried to say Marcus had been planning to take care of me, that the conversation I recorded was taken out of context. But the recording didn't lie. The bank records didn't lie. The jewelry theft didn't lie. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. For both Marcus and Shanice. The judge, an older black woman named Judge Harriet Thompson, looked at Marcus and Shanice with cold eyes. "I've been a judge for 23 years, she said, "and in that time, I've seen a lot of terrible things. But elder abuse, especially by family members, is one of the worst. You targeted someone who loved you, someone who trusted you, someone who gave you everything, and you tried to destroy her, for money, for greed, for nothing but your own selfish gain." She paused, looking at Marcus directly. "Your mother worked her entire life, raised you alone, sacrificed for you, and you repaid her by trying to steal her home and her savings, by trying to leave her destitute in her retirement. That's not just criminal, that's evil." Marcus was crying openly now. "Please, he said, "Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You're sorry you got caught," Judge Thompson said coldly. "Marcus Patterson, you are sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Shanice Patterson, you are sentenced to 8 years. You will both serve 85% of your sentences before being eligible for parole. In addition, you will pay full restitution for all stolen property, plus damages and legal fees. You will have no contact with the victim for the duration of your sentences and for 10 years following your release." She banged her gavel. "This court is adjourned." I sat there as they led Marcus and Shanice away. Marcus was screaming now, begging for mercy, saying he was sorry, saying he loved me, but it was too late, much too late. Outside the courthouse, news cameras were waiting. The story had made the local news. "Son steals life savings from mother" was the headline. Everyone wanted to interview me, but I just shook my head, held on to Candace's arm, and walked away. I didn't need my story to be public. I didn't need revenge or vindication in the court of public opinion. I just needed my life back, and I had it. 3 months after the trial, I was sitting on my front porch with Candace. We were drinking sweet tea and watching the sunset. It was a beautiful evening, warm, peaceful. My house was still mine. My money was still mine. My life was still mine. And I had friends, real friends, people who loved me not for what I could give them, but for who I was. Candace's grandchildren played in my yard sometimes, called me Miss Gloria, brought me drawings and dandelions and joy. I went to church every Sunday with Candace. The congregation welcomed me with open arms. I joined the choir, started volunteering at the food bank, found purpose again. I thought about Jerome sometimes. Wondered what he would think of all this. Would he be proud of me for standing up for myself? Would he be heartbroken about Marcus? I think he'd be both. But mostly, I think he'd be glad I survived. Glad I didn't let Marcus break me. Glad I found my strength again. "You doing okay?" Candace asked, breaking into my thoughts. I smiled, a real smile, the first real smile in months. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I really am." "Good," Candace said, because I was thinking, my book club needs a new member. You interested? "What are you reading?" "Books about strong women who overcome impossible odds," Candace said with a grin. "Figured you'd fit right in." I laughed, actually laughed. It felt good. "Count me in," I said. We sat there as the sun went down, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. A new day ending, a new life beginning. I'd lost my son, but I'd found myself. I'd lost my family, but I'd gained a community. I'd almost lost everything, but in the end, I kept what mattered most, my dignity, my strength, my freedom, and no one, not even my own son, could take that away from me. 6 months later, I got a letter from Marcus. It was forwarded through the court system as per the no-contact order. I could choose to read it or not. I chose to read it. It was 4 pages long, full of apologies, full of excuses, full of explanations about how he'd been desperate, how Shanice had pressured him, how he'd made mistakes. But at the end, there was one sentence that felt real. "I'm sorry I wasn't the son you deserved. You were always the mother I needed, and I threw it away. I threw you away, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life." I read that sentence 3 times. Then I folded the letter carefully and put it in a box in my closet. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday I'd visit him in prison. Maybe someday we'd find a way to rebuild something from the ashes. But not today, not yet, maybe not ever. Today I had a book club meeting. Tomorrow I was helping Candace with her garden. This weekend we were going to a concert at the community center. I had a life, a good life, a life I'd fought for and earned and protected. And that was enough. That night, as I got ready for bed, I stood in front of the mirror in my bedroom, the same mirror where I'd practiced my brave face the morning I confronted Marcus, the same mirror where I'd seen my tears and my pain. But the woman looking back at me now was different, stronger, wiser, freer. "You did it, Gloria," I whispered to my reflection. "You survived. You won." And then I climbed into my bed, in my house, surrounded by my things, protected by my choices. And I slept peacefully for the first time in months. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. You can't choose your blood family, but you can choose your real family. And sometimes the family you choose loves you better than the family you were born with ever could. My name is Gloria Patterson. I'm 62 years old, and this is my story of betrayal, survival, and liberation. And I'm still here, still standing, still free, Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.